All right, everybody, welcome into episode 10 of the NFL Seekers Football Podcast. I'm your co host, Danny, here with Josh. Today, we're going to be doing a rookie fantasy draft. It's our first fantasy football episode post draft season. Super excited for it. We're going to be drafting our top 20 rookies for the upcoming fantasy season, kind of just talking about their fits, their schemes that they're in, their situations, and just kind of trying to finesse each other and pick who we'd want. So yeah, just doing a fantasy draft, snake draft, and 20 picks. How you doing, Josh? You ready for some fantasy football talk?
I'm excited, dude. Fantasy season is the best season. So
Mhm.
this just got a big smirk on my face. I'm ready. I'm ready to get the insider secrets on who you think is going to go. You know, we have a competitive 12 team PPR league every single year. Um, and we do have a dynasty league this year, but it's fun. It's always fun seeing the rookies and seeing how people value them and rank them. And I'm excited to see. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. I'll pick first, and we'll do a snake draft from there. So I will pick with the first overall pick in this rookie fantasy draft, Bijan Robinson. Come on, it's a pretty
Oh,
obvious one. I mean,
could have never have guessed that.
yeah, it's boring, but come on. Bijan Robinson, just an absolute electric player. And in that scheme with Arthur Smith's offense, man, with all those weapons, with Drake London now and Kyle Pitts and Cordarrelle Patterson is RB3 with Tyler Algier, and Ritter's a good runner too. It's going to be a good legendary running game. I think he could get 1,500 yards. I think he's a lock to get 1,500 yards. I don't know what he's projected to get, but man, he's going to be good in that offense and that scheme. They're going to run it so much, and I'm just so excited to watch Bijan. He's probably going to be a top 5 pick just off of his name and his hype, and
Oh
like
yeah.
redrafts, let alone dynasty leagues, he'll be top 2. But yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited for Bijan.
All right, so yeah, Bijan. I would feel comfortable taking him probably, honestly, with the third overall pick. I think there's two guys I have ranked above him in the whole in all of fantasy football, and that would probably be Austin Eckler and Justin Jefferson. Sneak peek, it might change, but Bijan's going to go in there. I think he's going to have an instant Saquon Barkley effect on the league, to where you drafted a guy this high, he's going to have to get 20, 25 plus touches a game. And I don't think they're going to be scared to, also on a PPR platform. I think Bijan's probably going to catch 5 or 6 passes a game because he's a fantastic running back. But also, I think he'll get 15 to 18 carries consistently a game too. And they invested in their offensive line. They re-signed Caleb McGarry. I mean, I think the system for Bijan is just going to be so fantastic. I think there's just no way he can really fail, especially going to the Falcons where they're going to rely so heavily upon him. The only thing that's going to scare me is just too many touches with injury. But he's first overall pick in every dynasty league. Set it and forget it. He's the dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of mileage there with even his college days. A lot of touches, but and you could say the Cordarrelle Patterson and Tyler Algier being in the backfield is a little scary for his value. He will get overdrafted probably, but he has running back one upside, so I wouldn't really say it's overdrafting him. He's worth it.
100%. 100%.
And like you said, Arthur Smith is just a perfect scheme for Bijan and his wide zone. They picked Bergeron in the second round, and it's just they fit perfectly together. And that running game is just going to be so ridiculous. And I love the Falcons' outlook. You were saying in our last podcast, I was re-listening, and you said that you think the Falcons are going to get a top 2 pick next year. I honestly disagree. I think in that division, which is pretty poor, I think they're going to get a pretty good amount of wins, and I think Bijan could lead them to not winning the division, but being in contention for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Yeah, the division's definitely weak. I really think it depends on Desmond Ritter a lot. He could go in a number of different directions on how he plays out. I think, but yeah, if you give the ball to Bijan and he's going to be the focal point of your offense, he's getting 20, 25 touches a game. I think you do have a chance to win some football games. And it's not like they don't have Kyle Pitts too in that offense that can take a little bit of the weight off and be a safety blanket. But yeah, I think Bijan, he will be fantastic. Like you said, he might get overdrafted on like guys like me. I'd feel comfortable taking him third overall just because I know the upside's there and the touches are going to be there, which is so important for fantasy.
Definitely. And you've got 2 picks in a row. I'm interested to see where you go.
Yes, sir. I'm excited with this one. All right. So with my number 2 overall pick, it is fantasy football. I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Um, he's obviously running back 2 in this draft class. The Lions got rid of DeAndre Swift for him. I mean, and you give a guy a top 12 pick, and with the amount of hate they've gotten for it, Jahmyr Gibbs is probably. I mean, I'd say think of Alvin Kamara's role with the Saints. I don't know if he'll get 20 handoffs a game, but he's definitely capable of catching 5 to probably anywhere from 5 to 10 passes a game. And so that's going to be tremendous upside, especially for fantasy. I want a guy who's a good receiver, and he was the best receiving back in this class. Who knows? They might even line him up in the slot a lot. And, screens, fantasy's best friends, and, fantasy football players' best friends. So give me Jahmyr Gibbs. I love the PPR points for him. I mean, he'll probably be a guy with, I don't know, anywhere from 40 to 60 yards a game. Give me, 0.5 on a touchdowns per game, but I wanted to I'll all day long he's going to have more than 5 receptions a game. And so that's where all the value is going to come in. And so I love Jahmyr Gibbs with my second overall pick here.
Yeah, the Lions lost DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in the offseason, and I think Jahmyr Gibbs is they were both touchdown machines. Every game, it seemed like the Lions running backs were scoring. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a lot of touchdowns, and for that reason, I would take him here too as the RB2 in a redraft. But I think, I don't know, man. Jahmyr Gibbs is just, with Jared Goff as the quarterback, with David Montgomery in the backfield, I don't love Jahmyr Gibbs in fantasy as in a redraft league. I don't think it's worth taking Jahmyr Gibbs where he's going to go, probably in the first 3 rounds just because of the name. But right. I get it. He's going to be a DeAndre Swift replacement, and he's a similar player, probably a little bit of an upgrade to DeAndre Swift. But DeAndre Swift was never really that good and consistent in fantasy either. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Jahmyr Gibbs does in fantasy in general with the Lions, all those weapons they have on that offense. But I like Jahmyr Gibbs, the player, a lot. Hopefully they throw to him more than I expect.
Yeah, I'm going to put it above. I think he's going to have 5+ receptions each game. So I love that upside with some goal line touches, They have to give him the ball. They drafted him so high. They got so much hate. But yeah, I'm comfortable taking him here with my number 2 pick. Number 3 pick.
Wait. I think we should not do a snake draft. Now that I think about it, let's just do every other pick.
Back and forth. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Probably makes sense.
You go 3. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, overall, yeah. No, I'm not trying to finesse you. But no, Jahmyr Gibbs is a good pick. I like him overall. And like you said, he has a lot of receiving upside. He's a crazy receiver. I've seen him working with receivers with his route running, and he's a ridiculous player with a lot of upside. And the third pick, it might surprise some people, but I think that the most productive rookie receiver is gonna be Jordan Addison for the Vikings.
Wow.
I know you weren't gonna pick him, so
wow.
Yeah, I'm surprising some people for sure. But I think Jordan Addison as the wide receiver 2 for the Vikings, obviously complimenting Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne. I think he's gonna be really good. I think he's gonna complement Kirk Cousins well, because Kirk Cousins is gonna throw it to him a lot on like the short third down, just chain moving type situations. So I think Jordan Addison is going to be really productive, and in my opinion, the most productive out of any of these young rookie receivers. I'm not saying he has the most upside, because he doesn't at all, but I do like his floor for fantasy, and I just think I'd take him as a wide receiver 1 personally right now.
Yeah, no, I like that. And yeah, what you said to immediate contribution, he's going to step in there and he's going to be wide receiver 2. And when Justin Jefferson's getting double, triple teamed every single game, Kirk Cousins is going to look for his number 2 receiver. And yeah, I think Jordan Addison, you're probably right. For receptions, he's probably up there with, I think, probably Jackson Smith-Njigba for who might be the most targets coming into year 1. And I think he has tremendous upside, and I think he fits Kirk Cousins, how Kirk Cousins plays football. I think he fits that scheme really good. I think he can be there. He kind of plays like Justin Jefferson. He's kind of, a little bit smaller, but he can run every single route in the tree. He can get deep. He can run the intermediate routes. He can run underneath. So yeah, I like that. I feel comfortable with you taking that at 3. It was a little bit of a shock, but I do overall I do like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to reach too high on the quarterbacks if I don't think some of them aren't going to start day one. But yeah, I could totally see a quarterback going at 3. Understandable. I just really like Jordan Addison as the fit as the Viking. Not really so much as a player. He was my wide receiver 3, I believe, but I just really like the fit. I think he's going to be productive with the Vikings. And to speak about Jackson Smith-Njigba a little bit, I love him a lot. I just think we've never seen a Seahawks wide receiver be productive as a wide receiver 3 for fantasy. We've just never seen it. And he is good enough. Obviously, he's got the talent. He's such a good player. I love JSN. He's going to complement DK and Lockett really well. And if Lockett gets hurt, then JSN will definitely be the wide receiver 1 for all these rookies. But I'm just going to take the floor of Jordan Addison. I think you could play him immediately, and he could be a good flex for your team.
All right, I like it. And I'll get into pick number 4. Might surprise some people again, but it's going to be Quentin Johnston. This is a dynasty draft.
Wow.
And, both of the Chargers' 2 receivers are making $20+ million a year. So I think you can count on either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams gone next year. And then you're going to have Quentin Johnston step into that immediate wide receiver 2 role with wide receiver 1 upside for the future. Because, Keenan Allen's old, Mike Williams injury prone. All it takes is one injury from these guys for Quentin Johnston have a substantial role. You saw Justin Herbert last year. He spreads the ball around a lot. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Quentin Johnston to be a productive rookie, but I'm kind of playing the long game on him. I'm going to wait a year, and then I think he can immediately be a high wide receiver 2 upside, we've seen it. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, both had 1,000+ yard seasons. So the ball will go around plenty. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I want to take the upside here. I want to take the future. This is a dynasty draft. I'm investing in this guy. Give me Quentin Johnston with Justin Herbert. That's a big part too, is quarterback play. And I like, I think Quentin Johnston of all the rookie wide receivers has the best quarterback play. So give me all that upside. I'm fine to wait a year for a dynasty draft. But I love the upside right there. And I think he, in his rookie year, I don't think, unless one of the guys gets hurt, which happens almost every year with the Chargers, but I think there's he's got a pretty low floor, but his ceiling is ultra high.
Absolutely. I love it. Like you said, for a dynasty draft, you can't not like Quentin Johnston. It's pretty obvious the Chargers are willing to move on from probably Keenan or Mike Williams after this year. So he'll get 1 year of development behind 2 really good receivers as a wide receiver 3 in a high-powered Herbert-led offense. So you have to love the upside of Quentin Johnston and just his outlook as a player in the NFL. And I think he's going to be slept on in redraft leagues. I don't think he's going to be the wide receiver 2 taken amongst the rookies. And I think he definitely, if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have proven to have injury problems year after year after year, I think Quentin Johnston can step in and be a really productive, just fantasy player in the flex for teams, because that offense is going to be high powered this year with Kellen Moore coming in. The Chargers offense is going to be much improved, and Herbert's going to be throwing some touchdowns. And I think Quentin Johnston's going to be a player that they can scheme up a lot of touchdowns to, a lot of sweeps, and just I really like the fit in LA with Quentin Johnston, and I think he's going to be slept on in redraft leagues, and I think he's a player that you should definitely go after. And like you said, certainly in dynasty leagues where you can have him with Herbert for years to come. In dynasty, I'd probably take him over Jordan Addison, let's be fair. But I'm just kind of taking Jordan Addison for his floor. I really like his floor. But yeah, Quentin Johnston, can't argue with the talent, the potential, the upside with Herbert and Kellen Moore in that offense, complementing Keenan and Eckler and Mike Williams. It's awesome. I love the player, electric, and he's going to be a dynamic in fantasy because of PPR, and he's going to get the ball in his hands just as much as possible, like Debo. So I love Quentin Johnston, love his upside. I'm excited to watch him, and even as a rookie, I'm excited to see how he does in fantasy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love my pick. You talked me into liking it even more. All right, let's get into number 5, Dan. Who do you got?
And has Quentin Johnston announced what number he's wearing? Because that's obviously really important.
He's wearing number 1. He's wearing number 1. We got a low digit number.
So obviously he's going to be good. Okay, there you go. All right. Pick 5 might surprise some people, but the first quarterback off the board is going to be Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
Indianapolis Colts.
What?
First quarterback off the board. I mean, especially in Dynasty, how can you not, man? The guy's upside is just unmatched. And in this scheme, in the Shane Steichen offense with the Colts and with Jonathan Taylor complimenting him and them having my favorite draft I've seen personally as an analyst since I've been watching drafts and grading them. I love the Colts, what they've been doing this year, this offseason, and what they've surrounded him with. I think that Bernard Raymond's in a good spot to develop as a left tackle to help Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to have a good connection with his receivers whenever he comes in. And I think he's going to come in sooner rather than later and just light up the league with that offense and just his athleticism. And fantasy wise, you can't deny his rushing ability. Lamar Jackson gets drafted high because of his insane rushing ability, and his is the best since Lamar Jackson. He's going to be valuable in that aspect. And the Colts traded up, took him, or they didn't trade up, but they took him with the fourth overall pick. They're going to give Anthony Richardson a chance. So he's worth taking him. And I think even in a redraft league as a rookie, he's going to start within the first few games and he'll be impactful and he'll take over the scene.
Yeah, you know what? Now you talking about it doesn't seem as crazy. I mean, you give him a scheme with Shane Steichen, who developed Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts and made them both fantastic quarterbacks both years he was with them, and in a scheme where you're right, he's the best, most athletic quarterback since he's more athletic probably than he tested that way, better than Lamar Jackson. So, in the sense of his running upside, we'll definitely get him points. He'll probably definitely run a lot of touchdowns. So yeah, I see it. I like it. I think it's definitely high for a quarterback. But this is Dynasty again. We're picking for the future. We're picking, this is not a normal draft, where you wait on quarterbacks till rounds 3, 4, 5. But I do like it. The upside's there. The coaching, the coaching's great for him. The scheme's there. He's got plenty of help with Jonathan Taylor. The offensive line is coming back into play. So, and they took him high. So, I mean, yeah, I do agree that he is the number one quarterback that you should be taking in fantasy football. So I do like it.
And a sneak peek for regular fantasy leagues, I think Jonathan Taylor will get some touchdowns vultured from him because Anthony Richardson's such a big quarterback. They're going to do a lot of quarterback sneaks in the goal line situations. And you saw the Eagles last year, Shane Steichen and that offense ran quarterback sneak more than anyone I've ever seen. Like the league was thinking about banning it because of how much they abused the play. So Anthony Richardson's going to get a lot of short rushing touchdowns, and it could affect Jonathan Taylor and some of those other offensive receivers.
That is a great point. All right. Sorry, Dan. With my number 6 pick, I'm going to go the tight end out of Buffalo.
Wow.
Dalton Kincaid.
Wow.
I'm going to go early on this guy. I'm going to go early. I think the league's going to regret letting the Bills draft him and letting him fall that far. He's so much better of a tight end than the Bills have had. I mean, we all had high hopes for Dawson Knox at one point. He terribly disappointed us. But that's not going to be the same case for Kincaid. Kincaid's going to come in. He's going to be Josh Allen's safety blanket immediately from day one. And I think you can see, anywhere from 50 to 70 catches is what I would like to see Dalton Kincaid. And I think that's easily achievable for him. And probably, 50, 70 catches and maybe 5 to 8 touchdowns, for him. I mean, the dude's a touchdown machine. He can catch the ball at any point. You line him up at wide receiver. He immediately steps into a Bills offense where he's going to be their second best receiving threat behind Stephon Diggs. And I think this is just a crucial player that the Bills have been missing. And, this is a copycat league. We all want our Travis Kelce. So I think that's what the Bills are going to do with Dalton Kincaid. I think they're going to try and focalize the offense around him. And I like that upside. So that's going to be my number 6 pick right there.
Yeah. You know me, I love Dalton Kincaid. You completely stolen from me. In fantasy, it's just so fun. Just the outlook of him and Josh Allen playing together in that offense. It's so fun. The sky's the limit, truly, with Dalton Kincaid. And he really does match or complement and suit Josh Allen's play style really well. He is really good at finding open space on the defense when the play breaks down, and just he's a really smart, savvy receiver and route runner. So I'm so excited to watch that Kincaid and Josh Allen connection. I think it could be Mahomes Kelce-esque. I really do. I think he's that special, and he's going to be a freak in fantasy. Like tight end, last year there weren't many good tight ends.
No, tight
You
ends
had
hard
one
to
of the
come by.
4 good tight ends, and you were sitting pretty. There actually 4 is probably pretty generous too. There was not many tight ends, and I think
3.
Dalton Kincaid will make Dawson Knox pretty irrelevant, and Kincaid could score a lot of touchdowns as well with his big frame, and he comes down with pretty much every ball that's thrown to him in the red zone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I absolutely love the upside of Dalton Kincaid. Tight ends are so hard to come by. So give me all the fantasy stock in Dalton Kincaid. I'll take the upside right there.
Love it. And then we got pick 7. I'm going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba, the third receiver off the board. This is where I'm comfortable taking him after Kincaid, after Anthony Richardson. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba a lot. I do. I'm just a little weary about his fantasy value. I think you could see him be the second player taken in some fantasy redrafts or rookie drafts. And I think in that Seahawks offense, which isn't the most explosive, it kind of got figured out at the end of the year. It wasn't scoring as much as it was at the beginning of the year, alongside DK and Lockett, who they're going to make a priority to target and feed. I'm not the most confident that Jackson Smith-Njigba will just burst onto the scene and be some productive, slot merchant for the Seahawks. I just don't really see Pete Carroll working his offense that way. He's stubborn. He likes running the football. He likes throwing it outside. He doesn't just operate in the slot that often. So I just am a little scared about Jackson and Jigba's future outlook production wise for fantasy. But at the same time, in the real NFL, he's a perfect slot, perfect complementary piece for that offense. And he's a great player. He's going to break a lot of slants for touchdowns like he did at Ohio State. And he's an electric slot receiver and route runner, and he's just a fun player, and you have to take him here just for his upside, and he could be the wide receiver 1 eventually. So I like Jackson Smith-Njigba at 7.
Oh yeah, 100%. And kind of how I felt about Jackson Smith-Njigba going into this draft class was I felt like he was the only guy that truly had the potential to step in day one and have 100 receptions. I don't think that's going to happen now with his with the offense he's in. He's got there's not enough balls to go around, but I think he has the potential, and this is, you're playing the long game on him. If one of those players gets hurt though, DK goes down, Tyler Lockett goes down, then Jackson Smith-Njigba could be 100 plus, 100 plus reception guy every year. He plays the intermediate route of the field so well. He was the best in his class at it. It was just the situation that he went into that we didn't love for fantasy. So I love it. I feel safe there at 7. Tyler Lockett's in the twilight years of his career. So, Jackson Smith-Njigba's time is coming up, and he's going to be that dude, so I love his fantasy stock. He give me all of it, especially if you're playing the 1 or 2 year game. But yeah, he's definitely got the most upside, I think, with in a PPR setting where he could catch 100 plus balls a year. So I absolutely love that right there.
And I want to play a little game with you before you give me your next pick. Everyone that plays fantasy football knows that there's always a rookie wide receiver that breaks out, and he's usually a league winner for fantasy football. Who do you think has the best chance in this draft of being this year's league winner for receiver out of all these rookies?
It's a tough question. You put me on the spot right there.
I am putting you on the spot.
Ooh, but it has the chance to be a league winner.
Yeah. You got Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, who obviously has a lot of upside, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt.
You know what? A league winner. I mean, and I guess are we going all the way? Are we any receiver if we can take?
Like last year's Christian Watson, 2 years ago, what was it, Waddle? Just who's going to be that receiver that you take later on that just pays off for you,
You know what? Maybe give me Jaden Reed.
Okay.
They drafted him pretty high.
He's going to be him, really?
Yeah, okay. I think he has the chance to develop a lot of chemistry real fast with Jordan Love. He's kind of a slot guy. I think they're going to give him a lot of, I think he's going to be a featured point of that offense, whether he runs the short intermediate routes, takes the jet sweeps and stuff. But yeah, as a late round sleeper in your fantasy leagues, I hate to give away insider secrets, but give me Jaden Reed. Give me Jaden Reed. I like him in the later rounds for a league winner.
Yeah, good slot receiver and good complementary piece in that offense. I like that. It sounds like you might pick him later, so we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But let's hear your 8th pick.
All right, with my 8th pick, I've kind of been fumbling this one, trying to decide between a couple players, but gosh, I'm gonna go another tight end. Give me Michael Mayer.
Wow, Okay.
That's kind of a bold, interesting pick. But I mean, the depth in front of him is not that great. I think he has a chance to come in and beat. Let's see who's on. They have. Sorry, one second. They have Austin Hooper and OJ Howard. So I like his odds of going into camp and beating them both out. Jimmy Garoppolo has always had a safety blanket in George Kittle. And I think they're kind of that kind of mean, gritty team they want to be. They want to run the ball. I think they want to do these little over routes. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy who's going to sling it down the field. So I like the intermediate routes with Michael Mayer and the underneath stuff. So I could definitely see him being kind of just throw out a number 40 catch guy with maybe upside of 6-7 touchdowns. So, and tight end is just so valuable, so hard to get. They lost Darren Waller. They need a guy they need a instant, replacement for him. And they got a steal in the second round with Michael Mayer. So give me Jimmy Garoppolo throwing 6-7 times a game to Michael Mayer. Give me one touchdown maybe every 2 games. And I like it. I like the upside right there.
Yeah, Jimmy G likes his reliable players that just come down with catches, and he's a possession catcher that will move the chains for him, and he's going to be in the right spot, and he's going to be really productive in this offense because he's just such a reliable player. And Jimmy G, a player like that, loves those type of tight ends. So I love Michael Mayer's outlook in fantasy as well, and he could be a top tight end as well because you saw how Foster Moreau and Darren Waller have been the last few years. They've been when healthy, some pretty electric tight ends. So I think Michael Mayer could be in a good situation. They don't have too many weapons outside of Devontae Adams and Renfrow, so I like it a lot. And I think Michael Mayer is going to be pretty good as a rookie in fantasy as well.
Oh, for sure. And give me his goal line. They love to throw the tight ends around the goal line. And Michael Mayer's a contested catch guy. He's going to go up into the red zone and body somebody out. So I like his upside right there with touchdowns too. So, if he had 2-3 catches and he was reliably, or sorry, maybe 3-4 catches a game and catching 1 touchdown, that's all you want from a tight end. Tight end is such a hard position in fantasy. You want to take upside on him early.
All right. And with the 9th overall pick, I'm going to be taking the first overall pick in the NFL draft, Bryce Young. I'm going to go another quarterback, the second quarterback off the board here today. And I just like his outlook with the Panthers. He did fall to 9 because I just don't think he's going to be anything too extraordinary with the Panthers, too crazy productive touchdown wise or yard wise or putting up crazy rushing numbers. He's just going to be a solid, reliable fantasy option. I think you can stream, weekly in your leagues. I think he's going to be reliable and consistent. Bryce Young is just a good player. He's going to get touchdowns. They have a lot of pieces in that offense that can be electric on a week-to-week basis and score. So I like Bryce Young's outlook. We do have him a little bit lower than some of these like tight ends just because, he's going to kind of blend in with some of these other quarterbacks just because fantasy production isn't always – Jared Goff was a really good fantasy quarterback last year. So it's not always how good you are. So Bryce Young, he's obviously one of the best rookie quarterback processing wise and just quarterback wise. But in fantasy football, he's nothing that's going to blow you out of the water. He might get overdrafted a little bit. So I do have him here at 9 as my quarterback too for my dynasty outlook, but he's going to be a good, solid, reliable option in fantasy every week. So can't hate it.
100%. I absolutely love it. Bryce Young, best player in this draft, cleanest player. He's kind of reminds me of a Joe Burrow. They're going to continue to build that offense around him. I mean, he's the focal point. He's a guy that can throw for 25 touchdowns and also run for another 8. So, I absolutely love that there. I think 9's a safe spot for him, especially in a dynasty draft. And you're taking the upside of Bryce Young and Frank Wright, a quarterback-minded guy. He's going to want to, put the whole offense, and he's going to be the focal point of it, and he's going to be throwing a lot of touchdowns. So I absolutely love it right there.
All right, let's hear your 10th pick.
It's going to be kind of another oddball one, but I'm going to go with number 10, Rashee Rice.
Wow. Okay.
Kansas City receiver. They throw the ball so much. That's what they do. It is the Chiefs. He's going to step into that Juju role immediately. I like the upside of him to have 60 plus catches in his rookie season, along with some touchdowns. But I think, they lost McCole Hardman, they lost Juju Smith-Schuster. There's going to be more targets to go around. Give me a Chiefs player, especially a wide receiver, and he's going to have upside of also kind of being a sneaky league winner because he's going to go later in drafts.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today, man, when we were prepping this episode. Like, they never really signed any receivers. Sky Moore is really the only production receiver coming in that didn't really produce last year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think, is going to be off the team in a year, so he might get phased out a little bit there. And Rashee Rice, they drafted literally to be Juju. So I think at the very least, Rashee Rice is going to be Juju in that offense next year, and he can produce like Juju did, who had some electric weeks. You never can rely on the Chiefs receivers, let's be real, but they did lose Hardman, they lost Juju. So I think Rashee Rice could have a good connection with Mahomes, and you never know. Obviously, the upside's limitless in that Chiefs offense if they do have a good connection. And like you said, like I said earlier, if Marquez Valdez-Scantling leaves in a year, Rashee Rice is a really, really good option in fantasy. If he's their wide receiver one on that team, that's awesome.
100%. I love those SMU guys. The SMU, for some reason, produces a lot of NFL talent. It's kind of crazy, especially at wide receiver. I mean, I think they're like, you think like Florida or Texas or somebody, one of these huge schools would produce, LSU. I'm pretty sure SMU has produced more wide receiver talent in the last like 10 years than like more almost every school other than Alabama. So it's kind of crazy to think about that.
Even dating back to the Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Cortland Sutton, they've had just good receivers throughout the years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I
All
could
right.
definitely see Rice as a productive receiver for the Chiefs moving forward.
So are we going like snake at the end of the draft? Am I going two in a row, or are you taking the next one? Doesn't
I'll
matter.
go next. I'll go next.
Yeah, perfect.
And with the 11th pick, I'm going to be taking CJ Stroud as the third quarterback off the board. The Texans
Yes,
taking him
sir.
second overall. They obviously have him in their future plans. I love the fit with CJ Stroud on that Texans team and that D'Amico Ryan's offense. I just love the future of that Texans team in general. And I think CJ Stroud's going to be good. I think he's going to be somewhat productive, similar to Bryce Young. I think they could be kind of interchangeable. They'll be similar some weeks. CJ will be better some weeks. Bryce will be better, but I think CJ has a little bit higher rushing upside just because he's going to be more willing to rush. Just more careless as a runner. To be honest, like he's just going to run and not slide. Bryce Young's a really safe runner. He doesn't run if he doesn't need to. But I love them both. They both have decent rushing upside, but they are just really good passers, reliable, and I think they're going to be throwing some more touchdowns than we expect. And I think they could be pretty good fantasy options. And just they're probably going to be at the top of your waiver wires every week. Those type of quarterbacks where they're probably going to be your main streaming options this year. I don't mind them at all, honestly, either. They have high upside. There's going to be some variance there as rookies, but I like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I'll put them at 9 and 11.
Absolutely love it. Yeah. I can't argue with that. I kind of had CJ Stroud as my quarterback to throw the most touchdowns because I think they're going to put him in the most opportunities to do that. I see CJ Stroud throwing the ball 30 to 40 times a game, to be honest with you. He can do it. He's capable. He kind of, it's just in a weird way. So I've watched a lot of Justin Herbert. It's the way CJ Stroud kind of reminds me a little bit of Justin Herbert. The way they both play the game. They can run when they need. They're big, ultra strong guys, and they're capable. They got big arms. They're capable of throwing the ball 30 to 40 times a game. And just watch CJ Stroud in the Georgia game, and you'll fall in love with him. I mean, he was just awesome. This is the best game to end the season on. I'm so excited for his upside. I definitely will probably be taking CJ Stroud with a late dart throw in my draft because I want all that stock. He's probably he'd probably be my second favorite quarterback behind Anthony Richardson fantasy wise.
Okay. I like that. So you think he's going to be a touchdown machine this year then with that offense with Tank Dell coming in and
Yes, sir.
John
Yes.
Mechie? I like it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Let's hear
And
your 12th pick.
my 12th pick right here is gonna be Mr. Jaden Reed, who I kind of gave you a little insight in already. He's gonna step in. He's gonna be the starting slot receiver for the Packers day one. They drafted him higher than most people would have thought he would have gone. I thought he was gonna kind of follow the third, maybe fourth round. They took their second round pick on him, given they had like 3 second-round picks. But I absolutely love the upside. I like his ability. He's going to be They do. I mean, they do have some good wide receivers, Christian Watson, those guys. But I like Jaden Reed to be more of your possession wide receiver, underneath, intermediate routes. Can also get vertical too. But he's going to step in, be their starting slot wide receiver day one. And I like the upside of him. I like with the jet sweeps. And I think he's this year's fantasy league winner. He's a sleeper for sure.
All right. Yeah, I like Jaden Reed. Like I said earlier, I like him as a slot complement to Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs on the outside. I think Jordan Love will like Jaden Reed a lot as a deep threat, throwing bombs to him, throwing him slants in the slot. He's reliable. I will say, I think you do have him too high. 12 is really early for me in a rookie draft. I'll show you my 13th pick right now. I think I would definitely take him over Jaden Reed, and that is Zay Flowers for the Ravens, who's also probably going to be a starting slot day one, just on a much higher power offense. Zay Flowers could have crazy upside, getting big long touchdowns in that new Ravens offense with Lamar coming in, with Monken come in. And I understand they brought in Odell, but it's Odell. He's probably going to be there for a year or two. He's not going to be playing all games in the season, let's be real. And Bateman isn't very reliable health wise either. So I think Zay Flowers, dynasty wise, will have a lot of value because he'll have weeks where he's going to be the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. And yeah, I just like Zay Flowers overall more than Jaden Reed as a slot receiver, especially this year. Zay Flowers will have more touchdowns and yards probably in like a redraft this year. But yeah, both good slot receivers. I like their outlooks and good situations. It looks like they will both start day one. And yeah, I really love Zay Flowers for the Ravens.
Yeah, 100%. Play devil's advocate. And the only reason I'm not taking Zay Flowers higher, because I mean, he could be, all the way up to the 6th pick. I'm just going to play devil's advocate with it. I don't like the Ravens offense. I do not like the Ravens offense. I do not like how they feature their wide receivers. I do think he's got probably, one of the higher upsides, but I think he's got one of the lower floors. Also, I don't know. I guess he complements Lamar Jackson. Okay. He's kind of going to step into that Hollywood Brown role. But I don't think he's going to get as many targets right off the bat. But I do like Zay Flowers. I like the floor of Jaden Reed a little bit more. I think he just has a potential for more targets. But I do love Zay Flowers. He could in a redraft end up being number 6. So I do like the pick.
Yeah, I really do believe in that Ravens offense, and it's hard to say with the new offensive coordinator coming in and a new scheme, obviously, but I do think Lamar is going to be electric next year, and I think him and Zay Flowers will have a really good connection. I'm excited, but let's hear your next pick.
All right, with my next pick, kind of going to be another one you probably weren't expecting, but give me Tyjae Spears.
Okay.
The reason I'm going Tyjae Spears is I think they will, the Titans, Derrick Henry's getting, he's on his last leg. He's been taking just an ungodly amount of carries every single season. He's a bigger running back. His knees are probably getting bad. And Tyjae Spears is one injury away from being a top 10 running back, in fantasy with Derrick Henry were to get injured. But I think Derrick Henry, he's on his last. I think after this year, I think they're done with him. I think they'll move off of him. I think his contract's so expensive. But give me, playing the long game with Tyjae Spears here. I think he's well worth this pick right here.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tyjae Spears, one of my favorite running backs in this draft. And with this situation and with the Titans, with how good their running game is, and with him and Levis coming in the same class with Skoronski, they could just create a new, a running game dynasty, really. And being the heir apparent to Derrick Henry, I love it for Tyjae Spears. He's not going to be very productive as a rookie, but in dynasty outlooks, he has just as good as an outlook as any running back in that Titans offense. So I love Tyjae Spears in that Titans offense, and I think him and Will Levis could be a really good duo behind Skoronski for the future. I love their draft, honestly, this year.
And Tyjae Spears is just Aaron Jones in a different body. So, there's receiving upside and there's, running upside. But yeah, I think they'll be their starting running back here within the next year. I think they'll move off of Derrick Henry's contract next year and start to more rebuilds.
And then with the next pick, I'm going to take another running back. I'm going to go to Miami, and I'm going to take a speedy running back, Devon Achane out of Texas A&M for the Miami Dolphins. I just think Mike McDaniels is going to love the guy. We already know that. He's an absolute perfect scheme fit, just a speedy outside zone runner, and the Dolphins are going to love him. He's going to shoot up that depth chart. I know they have a lot of running backs, and that might turn some people off to Achane. But I personally am pretty high on Achane in fantasy. I think his dynasty outlook too, considering that Mostert and Jeff Wilson aren't the youngest, I think Achane could be their future bell cow running back. Just because I know McDaniel loves his athletic running backs, and there is a risk. Obviously, he's injury prone, and there's a lot of running backs in that room, and he's not a high draft pick. But I love the fit, and I really do think McDaniel will love using Achane. And I didn't even love Achane coming out, but I just love the fit, and I love him as a Dolphin. I think he's going to be a pretty productive Dolphin for a few years.
Oh, 100%. I think they're going to figure out a way to get the ball in his hand. And, he's kind of a guy, once he touches it, he has a chance of house calling it every single time. I mean, this dude is lightning in a bottle. He is fast. He's athletic. You want to get the ball in his hand because, usually when you do, something great happens. And the only thing I don't love about the Dolphins, they're just a true running back committee. They usually have 3-4 running backs every single year. But I think Achane has more upside than any of them. I think he's their best running back on their roster right now. And I think they're going to figure out, a way to get the ball in his hands, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be special. So I have no problem with you taking Achane right there. I think that's a great pick.
Yeah. Risky, but I love Achane's outlook.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm taking all the tight ends in this one. Give me Mr. Sam Laporta with my next pick.
Okay.
He's going to step into a Lions offense again, where I think he's going to step in day one, be their starter. They traded TJ Hawkinson away. They've always been a pretty good team to feature their tight end. Jared Goff, it's going to be a safety blanket again. I think Laporta has as good of his upside as anyone to be tight end one in this draft class. And I like the system. The Lions, I love their offensive coordinator, Mr. Ben Johnson. That dude is just a genius. He schemes up some of the best play calls in the NFL, and I think Sam Laporta is going to be a fun sleeper in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, I love Sam Laporta on the Lions, man. It's just such a fun fit. He's going to be productive, and he's such a fun player after the catch. Where I love his fantasy upside because of it. I think he's going to be he throws screens to Laporta, you just scheme him up. He's going to be a fun player after the catch and be productive in fantasy. I think he's going to get more catches than people think. So he's going to be a steal as a rookie in redraft leagues, and in dynasty leagues, the Lions don't have any other tight ends. So obviously, and they like their tight ends. So obviously it's a great fit. Iowa guy. Dan Campbell's going to love Sam Laporta. I love it.
Yes, sir. He's one of my most exciting players. I was excited to talk about. Dude's an absolute stud. Iowa, for some reason, they just produce all of these awesome tight ends.
Tight end you.
Yep. I think Sam Laporta is next on that list to succeed in the NFL. So I'm excited for him.
Sweet. And then my next pick is going to be another running back with Zach Charbonnet for the Seattle Seahawks. I might be a little bit lower on him than I have him lower than Achane because Achane's behind a few older running backs and Charbonnet's behind Kenneth Walker, the rookie of the year. So, or is he the rookie of the year?
Was it?
Oh, it might have been Garrett Wilson. Was it?
It was Garrett Wilson.
It was Garrett Wilson. Okay, well, the runner-up, but it's a great duo. Charbonnet is a good player. I love Charbonnet as a running back. It's a really crowded running back room. I know that they run the ball a lot over there in Seattle, but I'm a little bit cloudy on his outlook, especially as a rookie in redraft leagues. I'm not really taking Zach Charbonnet. In Dynasty, though, he's a really good running back. It's just he's sharing with one of the best young running backs, so it's really hard to, love him too much for fantasy.
Definitely a great running back room. I mean, that's probably one of the better 1-2 punches in the whole league. Charbonnet, I saw a player comparison, and somebody compared him to Matt Forte, which I thought that was kind of cool. It was a name I hadn't heard for a while, but yeah, Charbonnet, I mean, he's a true bell cow running back that can catch the ball too. So it's kind of crazy. He's going into a situation with a running back very similar to him, with Kenneth Walker, who's a true bell cow, can take the ball 20 times a game. I'm concerned. I don't know how that offense is going to be. It's really confusing to me, how they're going to balance. Cause these guys are both starters. You have two bell cows, and I don't feel like they complement each other that well. I feel like their games are very similar. But what does it hurt to have two really good running backs? Props to Seattle for having such a great running back room. But yeah, it could go either way. I think he's got one of the lowest floors, but a very high ceiling at the same time. So it's interesting. I'm a little bit scared of the situation. I it kind of deters me a little bit from Kenneth Walker as well. But it's just interesting. It's a weird situation. I do like the upside. I like the. I think he's got a very high floor, but I think he's got a very high ceiling, but a very low floor. So it's kind of interesting to me. That's I mixed emotions about it.
Yeah, mixed emotions sums it up pretty good. We'll see how it goes in their training camp, and we'll see how the running back splits go. Kenneth Walker did get injured last year, but let's hear your next pick.
My next guy is actually going to be Jonathan Mingo.
Okay.
I think they invested in this guy pretty early. He was an early second round pick. He's kind of got that DK Metcalf, AJ Brown build. Go figure. He came from Ole Miss. He's built like a freaking running back. He's playing receiver. He's kind of in a crowded wide receiver room, but I think he does have the potential to get up there and be wide receiver 1 or 2 here pretty soon. I mean, they got Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrence Marshall, and Laviska Shenault. But none of those guys really deter me from drafting Jonathan Mingo. He's got higher upside than any of those players. I mean, Laviska Shenault hasn't done much in the NFL. Terrence Marshall, kind of a disappointment last year. DJ Chark, true deep threat. And then Adam Thielen's old. So I like Jonathan Mingo's potential, to take over and be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. I like, he's going into this class with Bryce Young. So hopefully those two get a lot of time in rookie minicamp to build a connection. And I like the upside right here. I'm kind of throwing a dart with him, but I like the upside.
Yeah, he was my next player as well. And I really love Jonathan Mingo, man. I love the fit. I love that they paired him with Bryce Young. They picked him out knowing that I think Bryce Young and Mingo are going to have a good connection. And they're both really smart football players. And they're going to have a good connection when the play breaks down. And I think they're going to have a good touchdown connection. So I think they're going to have a good fantasy production together. And I like this Panthers offense. It's in year 2, especially. So for Dynasty, I love Mingo. I think he could be the DJ Moore replacement. I think they think that too. They didn't bring in anyone else really. And I think he could slot in eventually. He could develop into that wide receiver 1. I think Mingo is one of the few receivers in this class that has that wide receiver 1 upside in their current situation. So he gets me really excited for fantasy. I'm going to take him in a lot of leagues, best ball, any league I can. I'm shooting my shot at Mingo because he has a lot of upside, and I'm throwing darts at Mingo all day long.
Yes, sir.
Love a situation with Bryce Young. I think it's going to be an awesome connection.
Oh, I'm so excited. This fantasy season is going to be so fun. These rookies, it's such a fun rookie class.
Yeah. It's a little sad, my last pick. This has been fun, but Roschon Johnson, man, for the Bears. Absolutely love him. I love Khalil Herbert as well, but I just think that they're going to go running back by committee, and Roschon Johnson's a fun, big bruising back that can catch balls, and I love the fit in Chicago, and I think Roschon will be really productive pretty quickly. And, Khalil Herbert's been injured before. Roschon Johnson's that dude if Khalil Herbert goes down, and I think Roschon Johnson has potential to be a starter, probably, better than Charbonnet. So Roschon Johnson could be a really good fantasy option. And for Dynasty, he's one of the better handcuffs for me right now, since the Bears haven't really added any running back other than, Deontay Foreman, but he's a little redundant with Khalil Herbert. So I like Roschon Johnson a lot for the Bears, and I think he'll be really productive in fantasy.
Talk about a guy that doesn't have much miles on him either. He got to sit behind Bijan Robinson. And, in a different world where Bijan Robinson didn't go to Texas or something, Roschon Johnson probably would have been, a lot higher of a pick. I mean, this dude was productive. He was awesome. He's a big bell cow type of running back. And, Chicago did a good job with spreading the ball around to Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery last year. So I don't see a difference with Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert. So I definitely think he's worth a pick. He's 6 foot, 225 pounds, which you just pulled up. That's a great goal line back size. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a lot of goal line touches in that offense. So I absolutely love that pick. He definitely,
like you said, he doesn't have much mileage on him, and he's going to be their bruising goal line back. So I really do like Roschon Johnson for that Bears and that offense in that situation. I think it's a really good one, and he slept on.
100%. All right. Yeah, this is sad. This is my last pick. It's going to be somebody you probably weren't thinking of, but Mr. Chase Brown with the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. Joe Mixon, they kind of were acting like they wanted to get off of him. I think there's some legal stuff going on with Joe Mixon, but he's one play away from being the Bengals starting running back. And
Yeah.
this guy is a true do-it-all running back. I mean, he can receive, he can run, and the Bengals are ultra productive with their running backs. I mean, any game that Joe Mixon missed, which he missed a lot of games last year, you had Samjay Pirine as backup. I mean, that dude was getting you 20 to 30 fantasy points a game. I mean, they involve their running backs. They do a lot of screens to them. They give them a lot of goal line touches. So with the upside of that, I mean, as a handcuff piece, as a dynasty player, I think he does have the potential to be their running back one, maybe after this year if they decide to get off of Joe Mixon. But yeah, he's one play away from being a top 15 fantasy running back, because I mean the Bengals, that's just how they value their running backs. They give them a lot of touches.
Yep. I think it's pretty likely they move on from Mixon. I think the signs are pointing towards that sooner rather than later. Mixon's gone, and Chase Brown's a good overall back that can replace him. He really can. You can replace that production. You can put Chris Evans as the third down back. I like that, and I don't think there's too much of a drop off. Chase Brown's going to be a good productive back for them. He could be their Pirine. He's a perfect Pirine comp, honestly. So I like it. I think he'd be very productive for them. And like you said, he's a good fantasy option for for dynasty. He's an underrated piece because no one's really thinking of Chase Brown. He could go undrafted in a lot of leagues, and he's probably not going to go top 20 in a lot of redrafts. So take Chase Brown. Like there's some running backs, Tank Bigsby for the Jaguars, Kendrick Miller for the Saints will probably definitely go over him. Israel Abanikanda, someone else I wanted to shout out. I like him. But yeah, there's some other good players, but I like Chase Brown. I like where you put him here, and I agree that Mixon probably is going to be gone soon, and it looks like Brown's going to be that eventual replacement.
Yeah, and if you end up taking Joe Mixon in your fantasy league, you want Chase Brown. You want to handcuff Chase Brown, to a bench spot in your league, because Joe Mixon, something legal problems. I know he's had that in the past. I think there's something that possibly is going on. I might be wrong. But and Joe Mixon's he's been injured a lot. He was injured, I think he's maybe missed 5 or 6 games last year. So get Chase Brown, especially if you draft Joe Mixon. He's got upside. Any running back who's going to come in and be their lead rusher and take all the touches are going to be productive in that offense.
Yep. And then I wanted to shout out a few other players that we didn't get to quite talk about real quick. Will Levis. I really do love Will Levis in that Titans situation. And I think he's going to be good in Dynasty. Get him on your bench just in case, he could be productive. He's athletic. He can be really good in that scheme for the Titans and odd offense. Jalen Hyatt, really good complementary piece to Wan'Dale Robinson and those Giants receivers. I think Dable is going to use Hyatt really well. I like that. I like his fit with the Giants. And then Josh Downs is going to be a piece that Anthony Richardson really relies on in the slot. So I think those are a few players that you can really think about taking some flyers on. And you can tune into the NFL Seekers podcast this whole offseason. We're going to be doing fantasy episodes, rookie dynasty fantasy episodes, team NFL breakdowns and predictions. So just come to NFL Seekers podcast on any platform to check out our fantasy and any other content you want to see. So
yeah, we'll be doing everything. I mean, we'll be watching camps, we'll be watching team camps, we'll be doing everything. Any breaking news, any trades, we're going to update you on that. We're going to hop on the podcast, we'll talk about it. Obviously, most people love fantasy. We love fantasy. We're going to be doing a lot of that, a lot of snake drafts, a lot of auction drafts. We'll be doing everything fantasy wise. Also, one last player I wanted to shout out too. I didn't want his name to get forgotten about, but Michael Wilson for the Cardinals. Okay. I think he's also another late round dart throw. He could be a stud. But just going to throw that name out there too. But everyone, tune in, follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube if you'd like to see us. It's always fun. It's always a good time. But yeah, this was a fun episode. And what are we getting into next week, Dan?
Yep. Check out the visual on YouTube. You can see all the picks and all the players that we're talking about here. And next episode is going to be another fantasy episode. We're going to be doing a real fantasy mock draft, just a redraft, regular 12-team PPR fantasy draft, and talking about, our thoughts on the prospects and doing a mock draft, going through it together. So I'm excited for that. Excited to get into some fantasy football and talking some real football here. So tune into the NFL Seekers podcast, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to another one. Peace.
Yes, sir. Thank you.